When your dog walks over, settles beside you, and slowly lowers their head onto your lap, your knee, your chest, do you actually know what they're doing? Most owners feel it as a sweet little moment, a nuzzle, a request to be petted. But the science behind that single gesture is something almost nobody stops to think about. It is one of the most measurable, deliberate displays of trust a dog can produce, and it is happening in your home, probably tonight, and you have been receiving it without knowing what it is. There are 6 things your dog is communicating in that one quiet movement. And the last one is the one I most want you to hear. Let's start with something that sounds simple until you really sit with it. Your dog's head is not just their head. It contains their eyes, their ears, their nose, every single sensory organ they depend on to understand the world, to detect danger, to read their environment, to survive, located in that one spot. And they are placing it on you. In comparative ethology, the scientific study of animal behavior across species, researchers have long recognized that deliberately exposing a vulnerable body part to another being is one of the most significant signals in the mammalian behavioral vocabulary. Animals do not do this casually. Prey animals in particular are hardwired to protect their sensory organs because losing access to sight, smell, or hearing in a threatening environment is, in practical terms, a death sentence. Domestic dogs, despite thousands of years of coevolution with humans, retain this instinct. Behavioral researchers who study canine attachment, including work building on the foundational framework established by John Bowlby's attachment theory and later extended to non-human animals, describe physical contact that exposes vulnerable anatomy as a reliable behavioral indicator of what the literature calls a secure base effect. The trusted person functions as the secure base. The relaxed lowering of the head is the evidence that the base has been accepted. Put plainly, your dog has assessed you, your smell, your voice, your entire behavioral history together, and concluded that you are safe enough to go temporarily defenseless for. That is not a nuzzle. That is a declaration. Now here is where the physiology gets specific. When your dog lowers their head onto your lap or chest, the weight of it creates what researchers in stress physiology call deep pressure stimulation. Consistent, gentle pressure applied to the body. You likely know this concept from human wellness research, where it underlies the design of weighted blankets. The mechanism involves activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, which governs the body's rest and digest state, producing reductions in heart rate and a subjective sense of calm. In dogs, the relevant measurable marker is cortisol, the primary glucocorticoid stress hormone. Multiple studies examining the effects of human-dog contact on canine cortisol have found that positive physical interaction with a familiar, trusted person produces statistically significant reductions in cortisol levels in dogs. A frequently cited study published in Hormones and Behavior by Odendahl and Meintjes in 2003 found that interaction between humans and dogs produced drops in cortisol in both species, alongside increases in oxytocin, beta-endorphin, and dopamine, neurochemicals associated with bonding and reward. It is worth noting that the specific role of deep pressure stimulation versus general social contact has not been fully disentangled in canine research, and some scientists would correctly note that these variables are difficult to isolate in live animal studies. What the evidence does consistently support is that sustained, calm physical contact between a dog and their trusted human produces measurable physiological relaxation in the dog. Your dog, when they press their head against you, is using your body as a co-regulator. Their nervous system is borrowing your calm, and this is the part worth pausing on. The Odendahl and Meintjes data suggests it is not one-directional. Your cortisol drops too. You are each other's regulation system. There's a growing body of research on what scientists call physiological synchrony between dogs and their owners, the tendency of bonded pairs to align in measurable biological rhythms through sustained contact. We have understood for decades that this synchrony occurs between human mothers and infants. Physical contact produces alignment in heart rate, breathing, and even cortisol fluctuation. The question researchers began asking in the last 20 years is whether the same phenomenon crosses species lines. The evidence suggests it does. A 2017 study by Handlin and colleagues and related research published in journals including Frontiers in Psychology found that physical contact between dogs and their owners produced correlated shifts in heart rate variability, a measure of autonomic nervous system activity in both individuals. The more securely bonded the pair, the more pronounced the synchrony. Heart rate variability is considered by many cardiologists and physiologists to be one of the more sensitive indicators of emotional and physiological state. When two beings' heart rate variability begins to converge, researchers interpret that as evidence of what is technically termed co-regulation. Two separate nervous systems influencing each other toward a shared state. When your dog places their head on you and you sit quietly together, you're not simply in proximity. According to this line of research, your nervous systems are in active communication, calibrating, synchronizing, settling into a shared rhythm that neither of you could produce alone. Some researchers describe this as the deepest behavioral signature of a fully realized interspecies attachment bond. Your dog, in that moment, is not visiting you. They are attempting to become, as completely as their biology allows, part of the same system as you. Now let's discuss why it is specifically the head, and not a paw, a flank, or a tail, that your dog places on you. According to Alexandra Horowitz, a canine cognition researcher at Barnard College and author of Inside of a dog's nose contains an estimated 300 million olfactory receptors, compared to approximately 6 million in humans. The region of a dog's brain dedicated to analyzing scent is, proportionally, roughly 40 times larger than the equivalent region in the human brain. For dogs, smell is not background data. It is the primary channel through which they construct their understanding of the world. In 2014, a research team at Emory University, led by Gregory Burns, whose work is detailed in his book How Dogs Love Us, published neuroimaging data using fMRI on trained, awake, unrestrained dogs. Their findings indicated that the scent of a familiar, positively associated human activated the caudate nucleus in dogs more reliably than most other stimuli. The caudate nucleus is associated with reward anticipation. Your scent, to your dog, does not merely register as recognizable, it registers as rewarding. When your dog presses their nose, the most scent-receptive part of their body, directly against you, behavioral researchers describe this as a form of scent reinforcement. The dog is refreshing and deepening the olfactory record of your specific smell. You are, in neurological terms, their home frequency, the baseline against which everything else is measured. In moments of uncertainty, dogs use familiar scents as a stabilizing anchor. The headrest, viewed through this lens, is your dog doing something functionally similar to what humans do when they return to a familiar place after a period of stress. They are coming back to what they know is safe. This section requires more care than the others, because the same gesture can carry very different meanings depending on the dog producing it. In 1998, Joseph Topol and colleagues at the Hungarian Academy of Sciences published a landmark study adapting the strange situation protocol, originally developed by Mary Ainsworth to classify attachment in human infants for use with dogs and their owners. Their findings, replicated and extended in subsequent research, established that dogs form genuine attachment bonds with their primary caregivers, and that those bonds can be classified along a spectrum from secure to anxious. In a securely attached dog, head resting tends to look relaxed. The body is loose, the breathing is slow, the dog settles without vigilance. They are not monitoring your movements. They have placed their head on you and released the need to track. In an anxiously attached dog, the same gesture can carry a different weight. The body may remain tense. The eyes may stay open and track your face or your hands. The dog may press with more force than is comfortable, or reposition repeatedly, unable to fully settle. There may be a soft whine or a visible freeze when you shift position. Topol's research and work that followed it, including studies by Paula Valsecki and colleagues examining separation-related behavior, describes this version of physical contact seeking as attachment anxiety behavior. The dog is not resting in security. They are reaching for reassurance because the nervous system does not fully believe the reassurance is coming. It is important to say clearly, this is not manipulation. An anxiously attached dog who presses their head into you desperately is not being dramatic. They are communicating, as directly as their behavioral vocabulary allows, that they are not sure the world is safe when you are not there. That information deserves a response, not correction or dismissal, but the kind of patient, consistent presence that teaches a nervous system, over time, that it is allowed to let go. If your dog's version of this gesture looks more like the second description than the first, that is worth paying attention to. Here's the last thing. The American Veterinary Medical Association places the average lifespan of a domestic dog, depending on breed and size, between roughly 10 and 13 years, with smaller breeds sometimes living longer and larger breeds often shorter. Within that window, the number of genuinely quiet evenings, the ordinary ones, where nothing is happening, where you are simply sitting and your dog walks over and lowers their head onto you, is a number that has an end. You will not know which one is the last. Research on grief following the death of a pet is a relatively young field, but the findings are consistent and, for anyone who has been through it, immediately recognizable. Studies published in journals including Anthrozoas and Society in Animals have found that bereaved pet owners most frequently describe mourning not the landmark events, the trips, the celebrations, the documented moments, but the small physical ones. The pressure of a head on a knee, the warmth of a body against a leg on an unremarkable Tuesday evening. These are not interruptions to life. According to every thread of science examined in this video, the attachment research from Topol and colleagues, the co-regulation data on heart rate synchrony, the cortisol findings from Odendahl and Meinches. The neuroimaging work from the Burns lab at Emory, the olfactory research documented by Horowitz, those small physical moments represent some of the most biologically and emotionally significant interactions available between two different species. Your dog is not placing their head on you because they have nowhere else to be. They are choosing you. With full sensory awareness of everything else available to them, they are walking to where you are, settling beside you, and placing the most important part of their body, the part that sees, hears, and smells the entire world, onto you. Because to them, you are the answer to what the world is asking. So the next time it happens, tonight maybe, or this weekend, or the next quiet evening where nothing particularly memorable is scheduled, put the phone down, feel the weight, know what it is, know what they're saying, and let it be enough. If this changed how you'll receive that moment tonight, share it with someone who has a dog. And if you want more of the science behind what your dog is actually telling you, subscribe. There is so much more they're saying that you have never been taught to hear.